Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lunatic Cooking. I am Luna and today we're going back with another Italian classic. I know we had a lot of those. We're going back with pizza. So I'm gonna bring you guys through the process of actually preparing your dough. Let's get into it. So first you want to start out with 800 grams of 00 flour, same one like we used with pasta. This recipe calls for about 6 pies of dough. You can just cut all the ingredients in half if you have a smaller family and you want to do less. I had a dinner party in that night, so I opted in for the full recipe. You want to go in with 200 grams of semolina flour on top of that. It's going to make your dough a little bit more firm. It's going to add that good texture and also add a little bit of nutty flavor to it. It might seem like I'm putting a lot of salt into my dough, but when it all comes together, it all equalizes. So I definitely recommend going with 15-20 grams. You want to put in some sugar to activate the yeast. Before I put in the yeast, I typically like to give my mixer a spin with the dough to mix all the ingredients in together. So put in your fast action dry yeast, put in 100 grams of olive oil, and water. So water contents will depend heavily on how hydrated your flour is and what kind of dough is it that you're looking for. So typically every dough is different, every flour is different. I put in 500 grams because that's kind of the optimum. I actually end up putting, I think, almost 700. It was too much. That's why you can see that my dough is way too saggy, but I wanted to include that because I wanted to show you what you can do when that happens. And I do think that it's actually better to have a more fluid, more saggy, more hydrated dough rather than have a dough that has too much dry flour in it and it's just too tough, because the pizza just doesn't end up being as soft as nice when you actually go in and bake it. So here you see me struggle a lot with how sticky the dough was, and I end up putting a lot of flour, so I actually end up with like 7 or 8 pies of pizza, which is fine. People enjoyed it, but this is kind of something that you can do when not everything goes well together. And I think that it's great. It's a great tip when you're making doughs, when you're making bread of any kind, when you're playing with yeasted dough, because not all the time you're gonna get the same results. And you just have to keep on kneading the dough. You have to keep on forming it. Same technique that we used with pasta. So roll the dough over your finger and push it outwards, and then repeat. You can't really under knead the dough if you're doing it by hand, and I do recommend using it by hand. Do it for about 10 minutes and you should be fine. So then you want to take out a bowl and oil it with some oil, put your dough inside, put a bit of oil on top of it so it doesn't dry out, and you want to let it proof for the first time. So after it has doubled in size, or about an hour and a half, you want to cut your dough balls into portions. I had 2 more from this one that I proofed somewhere else, but for second proofing you just want to separate them, knead them all individually a little bit, and then let them proof. So once they have doubled in size, that's when we're gonna go into our sauce. So once your pies have proofed for the second time, go in and prep all of your toppings and your sauce. Chop up some garlic. I like to go in with onions and mushrooms as my go-to toppings for the pizza. Put some chopped tomatoes from a can into a pot. Put that garlic in there. If you don't like garlic, you can opt it out. I like to go in with garlic, black pepper, and salt and some basil. I find that that's kind of the best combination for pizza sauce, but you can also use thyme, oregano, marjoram. They're all great. You can even caramelize some onions before you go in with the chopped tomatoes, and it's going to add a really nice level of sweetness. For me, I'm a huge garlic fan, so I always go in with that. It's also a really good idea to plant some basil. I have some in the garden. I'm not sure if that's the one I used in this recipe. Anyway, so afterwards you want to top up your sauce with just a little bit of butter. I find that anything tomato-ish or tomato soup always benefits from just a little bit of butter. So once the butter has melted, you want to go in with a hand blender and just make sure that all the chopped tomatoes, all the ingredients that you have put in, blend well together into a smooth sauce-like consistency rather than being a ragu. If you're lazy or you don't have a blender, you can use it without blending as well. It's also great, and the tomatoes after cooking them are mostly dissolved anyways. So I just like to add little touches, you know, to my dishes, and I find that, you know, it just perfects the dish. So then you want to go in with your arranging of the pizza. So take a pie of dough and stretch it out as best as you can. I know people say you want to touch the dough as less as possible, but to be honest, for myself, it's kind of problematic. And this was the first time that I was using a stone in my oven, which was hot when I was putting the dough on top of it. So you kind of see me struggle a little bit with actually stretching it out, on because I couldn't touch the surface because it was scorching. Once you have your dough stretched out into a pizza shape, you want to put some sauce on there, go in with your toppings. My recipe, always a great base is with red onions and some mushrooms. Whatever pizza I'm making, that's always the one. Here I'm going with the classic, so then you want to top up some mozzarella. I've noticed that some people like to put their salami or their cold meats or meat ingredients under the cheese, and I personally don't understand why. I believe that the salami that you put on top of pizza, and you see me use a lot because I love salami, I love chorizo. That's what I live for. But it has to be crispy. It has to, you know, it has to crispify in the oven. So don't put your cold meat under the mozzarella because they're not going to get crispy. They're just going to cook and they're going to be saggy, and that's not what we're here for. So you can cover meat with more meat, that's allowed, because they're still going to crinkle up and get crispified edges. That's allowed. So another kind of technique, if you want to have extra crispy meat parts, like you see me use these soft salami slices, you can kind of arrange them like ribbons or little mountains on top of your pizza, and it's just going to expose those folds of meat to more heat, making them overall more crispy and adding that extra crispy texture with the saltiness of the pizza. After about 10 to 15 minutes on a maximum setting in your oven, the pizza should be ready. Here is, I like to top mine off with just a little bit of rocket. I really like it, just a touch of green. And here we go, another successful video, another successful recipe. Let me know if you managed to succeed. If you like this video, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment if you would like me to improve on anything. I'm still starting, still learning, so I would really love some feedback. And I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.